I just knew something was wrong. I'd had this overwhelming urge to pray for Jeremy's life. I turned on my radio, and immediately I hear a caller say, "What happened on I-20?" And the DJ responds, "The bus from Metro Church going to church camp at Louisiana State University has crashed." And I just screamed, "Dear God, no, 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 not my Jeremy."
Terry Arnett's 17-year-old son Jeremy was on that bus. It careened off the interstate, hit 2 concrete pillars, and ripped apart.
We can confirm that there are 5 fatalities.
I knew he was dead. But somewhere what I'd prayed over him for 2 years came up and came out of my spirit, and that's Psalm 91:11. He'll give his angels charge over us. And as soon as I said that, I knew he would not die.
Jeremy had been thrown 15 feet from the bus into the unforgiving concrete pillars. His lifeless body was burning in a toxic pool of battery acid and diesel fuel. Paramedics initially assessed him as too far gone to save, but a church youth director began to pray over Jeremy at the scene and convinced the paramedics to give Jeremy a chance.
And they said, "Well, we just can't believe he's alive. We triaged him dead." And they said, "Well, he'll never make it to the helicopter. He's too far gone."
Jeremy was life-flighted to Mother Frances Hospital in Tyler, Texas. His heart stopped 3 times en route.
We have 3 tiers of activation, and he was the highest level of activation, code 88. The whole full trauma team deployed. It's very critical when he first came in. I mean, he had 3rd-degree burns to a significant portion of his body. And on top of that, he had severe orthopedic injuries as well. Now they involved a femur fracture, multiple fractures in his pelvis. I mean, his right foot was totally turned around, and we thought that it was probably non-viable. He had some intracranial injuries. We're very, very concerned about him. I mean, his ability to survive the next minutes, let alone several hours, was one of our primary concerns.
Then I just prayed and I thought, it's out of our hands. It really is. It's out of our hands.
Terry and Kevin, Jeremy's stepfather, steeled themselves for what they would see when they arrived.
All these machines are hooked up to him, and I'm looking at him and I'm thinking, "Dear God, what has happened to my child?"
It was a horrific sight and just took our breath away.
It was getting worse, and I kept thinking, how can it get worse? But it did. His chest started getting bigger and bigger, and his color changed to this ghastly grayish blue.
Jeremy was bleeding internally. He was rushed back into surgery. Then Terry suffered another shock. She was asked to identify Jeremy's personal effects found at the scene.
I thought, this is too final. Don't ask me to do this.
But amidst the reality of impending death, strangely, Terry said she experienced another reality.
I knew if I started agreeing with everything that I saw, everything I felt, everything I heard, it all pointed one way, and that was towards death. And I thought, there is no way I will let Satan take my child, because I dedicated him to God.
And I declare, Father, in the name of Jesus, that you said by your stripes Jeremy was healed.
And I would stand by his bed and sing. These tears would just roll down my cheeks. And the only thing that I would allow to be prayed over him was the Word of God, which is the ultimate authority.
After 2 weeks, Jeremy was finally stable. He was going to live. But in what condition? His bones were broken, his skin seared, and multiple organs were traumatized, including his brain. Doctors said that Jeremy would never be normal again. But Jeremy's mother believed a different report.
I wanted the same child that left on that bus on June 24th. I wanted that same child back. It was mine. The Word of God said I could have it.
But there were still many dark days ahead. Excruciating skin grafts, life-threatening infections, and a brain injury that left Jeremy conscious, yet like a young child. But Terry and her family refused to give up, and faithful Christians everywhere were praying with them.
It was the prayer of all of God's people going up and strengthening us so that we could stand, because boy, we needed that.
And God answered those prayers. Defying all the odds against him, Jeremy left Mother Frances Hospital 5 weeks after the accident that almost took his life. He stayed in a rehabilitation hospital for 4 weeks before checking into his favorite place, his home. With the tender loving care of his family and a few more weeks of outpatient therapy, Jeremy's wheelchair gave way to crutches, and then the crutches to his strong, steady legs. In January 2003, 6 months after he was almost pronounced dead, Jeremy made a triumphant entry into college. Today, he's a third-year student working on a degree in music. A recent visit to the twisted remains of the bus reminded Jeremy of the preciousness of life.
Right here, I was sitting by myself. Lost some friends here, and lives were changed. My life was changed drastically.
By any measure, he should have died in the scene. He probably should have died in transit, and he didn't. And that wasn't anything that we had any control over. You see, tragedy after tragedy after tragedy, and you wonder to yourself, there's got to be something better. And then you see something like this, and you see the joy in their parents' eyes, and then what you realize is that this is what you're supposed to be doing.
That experience just changed my whole life. I turned my life around at that time. I know that it was a privilege and a true miracle.
And how about the praying mom who looked death in the face and refused to blink? She's written a book about the journey.
I just say, God, you're so good. You're so faithful to your word. And I look at him and I said, that is a gift from God. That my son is here. He is fully recovered. It blows me away with the love of God, and it's made evident in Jeremy.